Right, Wednesday night. If I'm looking round, I'm not being rude. It's because yesterday Idris jumped on my computer and cut the whole thing off. So I'm keeping my computer face free. How are you doing, Janine?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Even though we're sitting down in some kind of weird emergency situation in Canada, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a bit more about this. But I thought today, based on lots of communication I've had from the listening and based on the
Yep.
energy that I'm feeling, it would be really good for us just to have a little chat with our listeners about the intent that you and I have behind doing these shows and everything, and
Yep.
obviously with your readings, because I think that's a really important reminder for people.
Yeah, good idea. You want to start?
Yeah, so my intent, why I sort of love doing these readings with you, is because I've got a very questioning mind, and I'm loving that this sort of great awakening has brought so many people to question everything. And I think that's really, really important for us all. And what
Yeah.
I find I get from your readings is I find it's really helping me personally tune in with my intuition. And the great thing is we don't all have to agree on everything. So, that I don't use them and think, right, okay, Janine says that, it must be that. I use it and sort of say, what's the message in this for me? And look at it at that level. But what I have noticed is a lot of people sort of writing to me and putting comments, sort of saying that they hang on every word and they take everything as gospel. And so what I wanted to do is just have a chat about how people can use these sessions and your sessions for their good and the greater good.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more, Catherine. I got to admit, my whole career, I've really been more of almost like a life coach style reading. Definitely not like highly like some psychics that just pull stuff right out of the air. I don't really work like that. I admit it. I mean, I get some stuff, which is awesome. Okay, but really what my guides work with me as, or how they work with me, and I've seen it through my whole career when I was reading people, and my clients will tell you the same. So it's fun to get the tidbits.
Carry on. I'm just checking my cat whilst we do it.
Okay. Fun to get the tidbits, but the real focus is on getting everybody through. I know what my job is. Getting everybody through to the good parts and not getting caught up in all the details of. So I get the big picture. The universe always gives me the really big picture. Not many details you'll probably notice. You know what I mean? I don't get intel or details or like that. Okay, but I get the big picture of we're going here, and we're not going to the globalist vision of, and Klaus Schwab's vision of the world. So I got that in a really big way, and I've been getting that consistently. So the cards are giving you the big picture of we're going to be here. We don't know exactly when, but at some point, hopefully in the near future, right? And we're going to get past this and through this. So I'm just about helping everybody get through on a daily basis, hopefully, or every couple of daily basis. You know what I mean? So that I know my job, and it's just like not in the details, that's for sure. It's more about the big picture and trusting ourselves, learning how to love ourselves enough to trust our own instincts, like you said.
Yeah, perfect. So I hope that's helpful for everyone, because I think it's really important for when you're listening to this, that you take what resonates with you and just pass on the rest. Don't question. If you're feeling something different, that's absolutely fine. And always take with what you're feeling above what either of us sort of say, because that's we're all going to resonate with different information and different messages at different times. So that's brilliant. Thank you. I hope that helps everyone. Yeah. So could we start the session off today? Because I know that, you've been doing lots of stuff with your other guests and everything about different situations in different countries. But could we have a look about, there's so much that's happened this week, not least in Canada, with which you've spoken about a lot. Where are we at as humanity at the moment in this great awakening before we get into some detail?
So my first card pull is going to be humanity. Interesting. So finding, I was getting this about what the truckers were doing, but it seems like we're finding what's alike about ourselves And we talked about this, I think, last week, Catherine, do you remember? We talked about, even though you're across the pond, it's like we're getting this connection and we're getting communities to connect and understand each other, even in completely different situations. There's some likeness, some thread of likeness. And the thread of likeness is we've all been conned. We've all been under this spell. We've all been abused and used by deep state dark cult. So it feels like we're finding our likenesses instead of what takes us apart. So there's that. And we're discovering all the dysfunction. So it's all been stirred up. That can be really hard because we've got to look at some really harsh things. And I know you and I have been looking at that for a couple of years now, but a lot of people will just start that process really soon who've been in denial that there's any monkey business going on with their government. I know a lot of people who don't understand there is. So that'll be interesting for those people. So we're all sitting at getting friendlier, but we still have a whole lot to discover and expose. So there's those two. Okay, this is in the past. So the 8 of Cups, leaving behind a lot of things that we used to think true. So humanity as a whole have left behind a lot of things and went a little bit inward searching with that card too. We've had a lot of time, various different places have been locked down various different ways in the last 2 years. So I know I've had a lot of personal time more than ever before, not able to go out as nearly as much and like not gone to a venue of any kind for months and months until like Monday. I got to go to a restaurant, yay. But there's a lot of that. So this card's like the wise one going internal and really looking at what can we believe. A lot of people are having that experience where they're re-looking at who their families really are, who people are, who friendships are. They're reevaluating a lot of things. This is in the now. So we're at this so this card's a bit of a facade. We're still in the very last stage of the facade because a lot of people still think, for instance, your government's real, like, right, and it's fallen apart at the seams, right? So there's skirts showing, let's just say, and that's happening all over the world too. Apparently, I just heard, I think it was it Switzerland?
Yeah.
Who government, the word on the street is they've totally rounded up their whole government. I just read that this morning. And the reason why they dropped everything suddenly, which I believe is going to happen all over the world. I've been getting that for months and months, and finally it's starting to show up. So this card is sort of, we're at that very end of the facade because 10s are endings. And here's where we're going. So we've got a very fast movement into, I think, a whole new world. So a fast movement, but this card can also bring things like military. This card's and people over, like all the overstepping, I think is too. So when you watch your government overstep and unbelievable and almost jaw-droppingly overstep their power, like in Canada here, what happened, that's just to show you, this is my belief anyway, you know, some people don't believe that and that's okay, but that's just to show you, and if it really is the deep state, just what they're capable of. Okay, so I feel like the next step's going to be very fast and swift, where we're going to need military assistance in some parts of the world to right this, right? So that's a swift actions coming, and then some really ugly truths coming out. Surrender to. We're going to have to face some really ugly things about members of our governments and what we used to call elites. It's surrender to, there's going to be she's brutal with her information. So there's going to be information coming out. So I think that's next for us. But I think humanity's in a good place because we came up as this. So we're actually getting to know each other and reaching out, even with cultural differences. And yeah, there's things happening all over the world. We had Americans standing up for Canadians. You don't see that very often. Often they say, yeah, it's true. Often they say Americans make fun of Canadians, but now they're seeing us. This is kind of funny. It's almost like the New Yorkers were in front of the I guess it was the Canadian, what's that called? Consulate? Embassy. Yeah. And they were shouting for Trudeau to release the Canadians and one woman stood up, and she was African American, and I almost cried. What she was saying was so beautiful. She was so nurturing and mothering towards the Canadians. It was a riot, and so mad at Trudeau for what he was doing. It was like her protective energy came forward, the divine feminine protective mother. It was beautiful. I was so thrilled. I was like, wow. So they've had it really hard in New York, and here they're sticking up for the Canadians. How magical is that? Like, that's the universe working through those people.
Yeah, it really, really is, isn't it? It's fantastic. Great. So it's looking good, everyone. Okay. So yeah, I think that's really nice just to see where we're at because everyone's got their own little level of detail to go through, but sometimes taking it back up and looking at the bigger picture, I think, can be really helpful. So yes. So couple of things, getting into some of the details then. This, using the UK as an example, but this is happening in other places, in other countries as well. So in one respect, they're dropping a lot of the mandates, or they have dropped a lot of the mandates. And then in the next respect, and the clues in the word here, I think, but the cards might say difficult, they are now offering to children from 5 upwards. Now, they have actually given it to vulnerable children of that age in care, which is awful, because again, I think a lot of what's come out is the atrocities that have happened in those systems. But I've had so many people, and I put my hand up, sorry audience, I got back to all of you and said, I'm not asking about this again, but it's come up so many times, I think I want to ask about it. But everything I've seen is it says, apart from people in, some people who aren't under parental control, they're offering it. So can we ask the cards, what's this about? So we've got this dichotomy. It's like there's the emotions of everyone is really up. So in one respect, we've got restrictions dropped, and then they're doing this to the children. And
yeah, it's absolutely, you don't want to be giving that to your kids. So a lot of people are I feel like this card's sneaky. So sneaky, they got sneaky reasons. And this card's about 5. So working out. So they're trying to get people to work out. And I know people are not going to like this, but this is what I get. They're trying to get people to work out for themselves, not to do it. Okay, so if you look at karmic law and the laws of the universe, a human can't just remember the Garden of Eden? You can't just stay in the Garden of Eden. Okay, that time's gone. You can't stay naive. You have to actually get out there and figure out for yourselves, good, bad, and ugly, what to do in situation. So this is in the past. So we've been told the truth about it. It's everywhere. If you haven't heard what this is doing to people, then you've been living under a rock and you only watch mainstream media, which can't really be true much longer, because even mainstream media is going to do a flip. Just watch. It's coming. I mean, CNN was bought out by a huge Trump supporter, and everything's going to change. And their last little remnants of people just got let go. Like that's going to be a whole different thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's already out there. So if you still are doing things, because these 5s say, so there's still going to be an amount of the population doing things, but a lot like against, I think, their intuition and instinct and even common sense. But a lot of people are going to wake up with that as well and actually make the choice. So karmically make the choice for themselves as humans. I'm going to do this to my child or I'm not. And then you got to take the responsibility if you end up with a bad batch, because I don't believe every single one of those shots are bad.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it really hit home to me today when I saw that it's being offered to all the children. Now, there are some children that are, say, in the care situation where they haven't got a choice, but the children in a family advantage, the parents have now got to step up to the mark because it's being offered. So a lot of very worried people emailing me, and I'm saying, send them some good information, get the information out there, go do something. Don't sit there worrying about it. Get the information out there. So fantastic. So the other question, and you might have covered this in one of your readings, but obviously there's a lot of people talking about the trucker situation, absolutely amazing, the truckers, but about whether it's a distraction and whether we should be still really focusing our efforts on becoming self-sufficient as communities. Because a lot of people, again, there's so much good work doing that, but the downside is the risk that people sort of think, oh, I can bung them 10 quid and then they'll do it for me, sort of thing.
Yeah. So phrase that again exactly.
So the truckers, not getting into, the thing for that, but are the baddies using the truckers as a distraction to stop people building their communities and getting self-sufficient?
Okay, so this is the past of that. So temperance and healing. So I have done a lot of looking at the beginnings and origins, and I think it actually was more organic. I think that some people's got something in the air to start it. I think they got little tailwind, some planted ideas, maybe even spiritually, but certainly in some way they got the idea. And the universe already knew this was coming because there's all kinds of evidence in the past, even with the Simpsons show,
yes,
that there's going to be a trucker convoy. Okay. And that Trudeau was going to hide. Okay. That was already in the Simpsons. I mean, so but I go to, there could be ways that they see ahead with these things. I'm telling you, it's weird. Right. So, but I got that even if it was planned by the bad guys back in the day, the truckers took it over and made it into something positive with their hearts. So they brought some heart into it and didn't just make it into an angry strike. They don't even call it a strike. And a lot of truckers are on the road here in Canada and the US, by the way. So we're not seeing that much shortage. And let us know in the comments if you are and you're in Canada or the US, because I don't see any shortages yet. Okay, so that's interesting. And they've been at it.
That is interesting. And also the other thing that I think is interesting, but you'll know a lot more about this than me because I haven't really seen the details of it, is if they've had all their funding cut off, then what are they surviving on?
Yeah, so they haven't quite yet. Just today, some of them had their bank accounts froze. And then that 10 million did get taken away. But within days, they had another 9 million on that GoFundMe. And even though everybody says that it was hacked, okay, so I just put a thing up on Telegram about this. They explain it exactly that new funding system they had. They weren't able to get the funding from that. So the government hasn't been able to, and I don't know how they're doing it. Maybe they're based in the US or something, but they're not able to go in and get the money. So what they did was they sent a hacker in and they got the names of everyone, not their information though, like their credit card information was not hacked, but their actual names. And now the Canadian, I believe I'm not sure exactly who, but people are being phoned and asked, and somebody even got let go of in their work so far, we know, because they funded it. Can you imagine? So they're doing what they did in the States around the January 6th thing. They're targeting anybody who even supported this. Okay. So, but they also found out who hacked it, and now they've put that guy's information out. So that'll deter future hacking, and that guy's in a whole lot of trouble. They doxed him. Okay, so it's like, wow, what a mess. The whole thing's a mess. But they just today started going into people's bank accounts, and the truckers made a public comment and said they don't care. They have no freedom anyway, and they got other ways that they're getting money. They're even getting handed cash and stuff. So it's like they're just going around the system. And I really think it's a way that the world is showing us. Our lives are showing us, okay, nothing's sacred. Your bank account's not sacred. All of this was known by most people who believe in conspiracy, what we call conspiracy theories. They're not conspiracy theories. Your rights have all been taken away, especially if you're Canadian. It's very obvious, but Australians, same thing, maybe even in the UK, more so than people realize. So at a drop of a hat, your government can go in and just take your stuff. Okay, that's what they're exposing. the worst thing the deep state can have is exposure like this.
Yeah.
This is all for the good. And that's even what the truckers said. They don't care. They said, our rights are already taken away. This is for the future of our kids. So they literally said that. They're there for the long haul, those guys.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. So there's always a way around it. So next question links onto this a bit, but can we ask the cards? So I know a lot of people, obviously cryptocurrencies of various different types and everything, but I'm old enough to remember not that long ago when they launched cryptocurrencies and the phones that went with them that were meant to be completely secure. And then they actually used those phones to break up a lot of drug rings and baddies and everything. So they were told, everyone was told they were completely unhackable, but that was lie. Yep. So can we ask the cards currently where we're at now? I know it's a bit general, but the crypto market, is it really secure? Because I've heard lots of people sort of saying that we've got to move to this, but I still remember that it wasn't secure when people were told it was.
I think it could be made secure, but there's a lot of not secure around it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And this is probably going to show the weaknesses in it. I think there some might be and some not. So this is going to really show the weakness. So it can be hacked for sure. You better believe it, no matter what people say. Okay, so we've got the moon in the background. So there's booby traps put right into it. I mean, who makes these things? We don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and this is a way they're going after the cryptos too. And by the way, they said that in that announcement that Trudeau made, and that woman, that horrifying words that they said, they're going after, and yet they're not going after Trudeau for all the stuff he's been known to, steal from the Canadians. It's unbelievable. But anyway, so they're going after the money, you bet. They're going to try, but this is what it's going to do. It's going to actually firm up. So some cryptos will show themselves to be unhackable, and other ways that you utilize and or store your crypto or whatever are going to show to be hackable. So it's going to separate and really, and also get people thinking about it, and maybe even create a more secure situation around crypto. It's going to really expose it, let's say, to being how secure is it? And it's not, it's got a lot of leaks actually.
Yeah, because it goes common sense. I mean, I say how many people pushing it's not, but anything that's created by a human can equally be dismantled by a human. I mean, if you've created it, where the gaps are. So okay. Now Prince Andrew has settled out of court, and the reason I'm reading these things is because this has got repercussions all over the world, folks. So he's this week settled out of court, and there's the funniest memes I've ever seen going round about everyone queuing outside Buckingham Palace because Prince Andrew is giving money to someone he's never met, because the whole story's in shambles. But before we came on, I also saw on the BBC website that now people are starting to ask where the royal family's money's come from, because the Queen is having to provide some of this money that he is going to have to pay her off with. So can we ask the cards, what are the ramifications of where we're at now with this situation?
Yeah, it definitely opens the question. So this is like, it opens a whole new thing, births a whole new situation for them, which could be equally as bad as the other one was, by the way. And it's around Pentacles, money. Okay, so where did the money come from? And it's going to cause a lot of stress. They're going to have to account for it's going to be, that's an alarm bell. It's going to bring the alarm bells to their money situation. Exactly what you said. And when I did a reading on this, I think it was on, I can't remember, a couple of nights ago. I can't remember what show. I've been busy last couple of days, really busy. But what it is it feels like they'll be exposed anyway in tribunal type situation, is what I get.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, they don't believe in the tribunals, but what I get is they're going to be exposed by what we call the alliance. So they're not worried about what just happened because they're using it. It's like it's being used. So it's a unique way to expose something else, which the whole time this
lots of people are asking questions about where the royal family get their money from, which can only be a good thing. And secondly, on the same page, about how Prince Charles is one of his charities is being investigated on the financial side of things for giving money to someone and honours for someone to get them into the country. So 2 financial investigations involving the royals in the news in one day. That's got to be a good thing. So hey, yeah, hey. Okay, so we've had a lot of the poor people in New Zealand are obviously having a lot of trouble with violence being used against them at the moment. New Zealand have had, like Australia, have had a really tough time throughout all this and everything. Why can the cards give any indication about why it's still so draconian over there? Why they're still having such awful I mean, they really haven't had any relief from the situation at all, from what I can see and from what I'm told. And a lot of police brutality being shown.
Weird. Okay, so this is weird. Readers chime in. Look at these cards. So the sun and the mystery. So there's something really good going on in the background that's going to surface, it looks like. And it's around money for them. I wonder if they might be one of the first to have a real obvious show of Jasara or Nasara. I guess in their region, it would be called Nasara, but we're going to call it Jasara because that's more global. Okay, because we don't live there. So, but there's one in the same thing. It just depends if you're talking about somebody far away or your own nation. But anyway, so there's secretly in the background things going on that are going to switch the narrative, is what I'd get from that. Brilliant. To a very positive one. And my cards don't even want to talk about all the bad stuff. And that's probably offensive to some people, but cards are kind of funny. Like when I read for individual clients, they would never dwell on, it's like the universe doesn't like to make you into a victim. Yeah. So it never dwells on, like, the hardships always a marinating. I know I used to even use that word. Not sometimes people would get really mad at me, but it's like the marinating of what do you want to manifest? They've been working on really understanding what is New Zealand really want, because this card's a manifestation card. What are they manifesting? So the fact that they even started standing up is brilliant, because we know that they did, and en masse we know that they did that. So that's good. It's like the powers that be, we're not exactly sure. I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but some bigger universal love powers, let's hope. Yeah. And certainly some what I call the white hats and or / the alliance feels like they're watching and going to give them what they're really manifesting. Were they going to keep being enslaved and allow that? See, this is all a big lesson, you guys. And the whole idea is you got to actually in your heart know what you want and go for what you want and stand for what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And isn't it
so they've done it.
Isn't it interesting throughout this whole thing, public perceptions of what we've thought, you know, laid back Canada, you know, Swiss is the most neutral country, laid back Aussies who you'd never pull a wool over an Aussie's eyes because they're big, tough, and they wouldn't let you do it. Everyone loves living in New Zealand. Isn't it weird how this thing has exposed how arse about face everything is? And actually, a lot of the countries that haven't had these draconian lockdowns, like a lot of Africa, for example, are the ones that are really coming into the fore. It's really shown us how wrong our perception was, isn't it?
Yeah, and even like having a YouTube channel showed me early days. First of all, Canadians were the toughest audience, so it didn't surprise me that they're being really tough right now and they're not backing down. Once they get stirred up, they were the toughest ones to please as an audience. But I absolutely love my Canadians. I love my UKers were the easiest going, interesting, and the most humor, second only to maybe Australia, because they're actually really funny and so easygoing, almost to a fault easygoing as an audience. So it's making sense to me what I and then the Netherlands felt like they were more following the rules, or that their society was in general, and they actually had it really repressed. If you even think we had it bad, they're very draconian, and they were just putting up with it. Rule following, and I hopefully they're not. I think they've woken up from that en masse too, but I'm thinking the whole world has. But yeah, surprising. And the US, interesting.
Yeah,
real mixed bag of tricks there, depending on where in the US the person was from. But US audience extremely loving, actually, very kind, and a lot of people wouldn't think that, generally speaking, but I found them to be extremely loving. So yeah, it's like, wow.
It's really, really fascinating. We've all learned so much and are continuing to learn so much about this process. Well, I think that's a really good place to finish today. I know there's loads of details we can go into, but just feels such a positive place. So thank you so much. Good luck to you guys in Canada and everywhere else that's really suffering at the moment. Lasting message from me before we come on to lasting message from Janine. The clue is often in the title. So something is being offered doesn't mean you have to do it. Any final messages from you, Janine?
Yeah, well, that totally that, but let's have a look. So I get this directly for the UK. I just got the word, tell this to the UK in particular. So let's talk about manifesting. So it's really important right now to use your intuition and imagination, because she's well asked. In your mind, in your own personal vision of what your future is going to look like in the most positive way. Believe it could actually be that way. And you guys are headed for breakthroughs. And I think the world is, but that was specifically for the UK.
Do you know, this is so spooky. I wasn't going to do this today, but you're not going to believe how relevant that is. So my daughter and I are reading this book, Manifest.
Perfect.
Now, the reason I love this book, I am going to do something that I hadn't done before and start a little book club on my channel just to go through some key messages, because I've been manifesting for years and I love it. But what I love about this book, and don't worry, folks, I'll put all the deets on there. You can see all my stickers. It's so simply done. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's beautifully, simply explained. So people that perhaps haven't personally worked with manifestations today, this is going to give you so many tips to get yourself started in a really easy way. So the fact that you've just come up with that is unbelievable.
Awesome.
How spooky is that?
Sweet.
Oh, sweet. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Janine. Thank you so much for everyone that's listening, and onwards and upwards, everyone. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.